Dream Chronicles by Sana Tanvir. It was a lazy summer afternoon when all the kids arrived at Grandpa's house. Laura, Daphne, Clark, and John had requested of their parents that after doing their summer vacation homework, they would spend the rest of their holidays with their grandpa at his farmhouse in the suburbs of New Jersey. Grandpa lived there with his puppy, Spark, and Wright, his butler. Wright was always right, you see, so Grandpa named him Wright. Otherwise, his name was Thomas. Seeing all the kids at the house, everyone was very happy. Grandpa was fond of storytelling, and the kids were fond of listening. They all knew that Grandpa had a fine collection of stories amongst his memories. So Laura and Clark, being the eldest, planned to ask Grandpa to tell them a unique story that they had never heard before. In the evening, Grandpa asked them all to gather, and also ordered Wright the butler to make cookies for everyone. And so they all came and sat near Grandpa in the living room. Grandpa was thinking deeply which type of story to tell them, when suddenly Daphne interrupted and began to share about her dream the night before. She told Grandpa that in her dream she met a fairy, with whom she flew to the magical world of fairies. Everyone laughed, except Grandpa. He was deep in thought. After an odd silence, Grandpa said, "Dreams have specific meanings. They tell us what we want to do and what we have to do." A hush fell over the room. Then Grandpa continued, "Once upon a time, there lived a fine couple, Mr. Clark and his wife Lila, in a small house. Their house had a vast garden in which every type of flower blossomed. Both the man and his wife loved gardening. They took care of every plant by themselves. One day, Lila was worried and anxious. Her husband noticed her anxiousness and asked what was wrong. Lila told him that last night she had had a bad dream. Clark laughed and said, "You are anxious because of a dream?" Lila said, "I don't think it is just a dream. I think it is a signal." "What are you talking about? A dream and a signal?" Clark asked. Lila told him that she had been repeatedly seeing this dream for weeks now. She said that in her dream there was a fairy named Rosetta, who lives in a rose flower in our garden, and that she always asked for her help. Clark felt something odd himself and began to ponder this. He went with Lila to the garden to check whether something might be happening there. They both looked all over to find anything, but they couldn't. They also searched the rose flower area in vain. As they were about to go back to the house, someone said rather loudly,
"Hi, Lila."
"Who is it?" inquired Lila.
"It's me, Rosetta,"
someone said. Again, Clark and Lila looked everywhere, but could find nothing. Then Clark looked at Lila's shoulder. A tiny creature was waving its hand. He went close to it to see what it was. "Oh, my goodness, it's a fairy!" Clark shouted.
Are you Rosetta, the Rose Fairy?
Asked Lila.
Yes, I am that fairy who comes into your dreams and asks for help,
Rosetta replied. "What do you want?" Lila asked. Rosetta told them that in their fairyland they were going to observe the spring festival, and for that she needed their help to build a sunflower cart for the Fairy Queen, and that it should be decorated with Rainbow Canyon stones. Wait! Where is this fairyland?" Clark asked as he was confused about all this. Rosetta pointed to the garden and said,
This is our fairyland.
"What?" Lila and Clark almost shouted. "But why can't we see it?" both inquired. Rosetta flew and lifted a leaf, and as Lila and Clark went down very close, they saw two other little fairies. Clark rushed inside the house and came back with a magnifying glass in his hand. He looked through the magnifying lens at the garden and was astonished to see a wonderland of fairies in his garden. There were fairies all over the garden, and their male partners were helping them in the tasks as they were preparing for the spring festival. They saw a pigeon hovering over the garden with a fairy and decorating the garden with buntings with the help of spiderweb string. They could never have seen all this without the help of the magnifying glass. Lila and Clark never had any idea how other lives such as these could exist. Lila asked the fairy how they could be helpful for her, and why fairies who have magical powers couldn't do their tasks for themselves.
Yes, fairies have magical powers, but it is not like what people usually think. We have some special qualities for which we are known. For example, I have the power of going into dreams, and that's what I use to get help for my tasks to be done. Other fairies might have the power to bloom flowers in the garden in their specific season.
She pointed towards the bellflower fairy. "So, what could we do for you?" Clark asked. Rosetta answered,
As I mentioned before, I have to make a sunflower cart decorated with rainbow stones. Now, you'll be wondering about the cart. Well, you have that in your house. Follow me.
Both went into the house following Rosetta. She stopped in front of a small horse cart that was gifted to Lila by her mother. She said,
I need this cart, and as I know that it is close to your heart, so that's why I came in your dreams to seek your permission.
As Lila was kind-hearted and loved to help others without hesitation, she offered that cart to Rosetta.
Wait a minute, what about the sunflowers?
Lila asked, to which Rosetta replied with a smile.
You should already know the answer to this.
Then Lila looked towards Clark, as she knew that Clark had a special sunflower bed outside the house, but she was a bit hesitant as to whether Clark would allow her to pick sunflowers from there. Clark noticed Lila's expression and with a smirk went outside the house, and when he came back he had some sunflowers in his hands. Lila and Clark then decorated the cart with sunflowers. They made the roof of the cart, and not only this, but they also made wings of the cart with the petals of sunflowers. They used colors to paint the cart too. The cart was looking fabulous, but still something was missing. Then Clark asked Rosetta, "You mentioned Rainbow Canyon stones. What's that?" Rosetta drew an image of that place on the floor. Both Lila and Clark could not understand because they had never been to that place before. They asked about its existence and address. Rosetta then told them that this was the big task for which she needed their help. For this, she would need Clark, as rainbow stones are heavy to carry, and they are made of crystals and could break easily. Great care would be required as well. Rosetta then disclosed the location of that place.
It's far off in the clouds, between the mountains of red rocks.
In the clouds? For that, I would need wings to go there, Clark mocked. Rosetta then told them that now she would come in his dreams at night, and then she would take him with her into the clouds, and in that dream he must follow her instructions silently, so that his dream might not get disturbed in between. That sounded strange and mysterious, but as Clark and Lila had promised to help Rosetta, they got ready for this too. That night, as they fell asleep, Rosetta came into Clark's dream, grabbed his hand, and flew him high into the clouds. On their way to the Rainbow Canyon, Clark witnessed several magical things. He met snow and cloud fairies, as Rosetta greeted everyone on her way. He also saw the Tooth Fairy, who was busy managing her tooth gallery, and was about to fly to visit one of her friends to pick up his tooth. Then he saw a large rainbow from far off. Rosetta pointed toward it and said,
We are almost there.
In Rainbow Canyon, everything was made of rainbow colors. Rainbow fairies were busy making rainbow by filling colors continuously into the machine. Rosetta then instructed Clark to pick different stones from there. There was a red crystal that was sparkling brightly. Clark asked Rosetta if he could take this one for himself. Rosetta allowed him to take it in gratitude for his kindness and help. On their way back home, Clark wished that he could prolong this dream, as he wanted to spend more time there. Then, next morning, as Clark and Lila woke up, at first they thought nothing had happened and it was just a dream. But then they saw a bag of rainbow stones in the corner. Also, Rosetta was knocking at the window, so they quickly came to the realization that they were once again dealing with real life. Rosetta told them that they would need some tools to cut down these stones so that they could be assembled easily in the cart. The whole day and night, the three worked hard to make the cart for the spring festival. The next morning, the cart was ready to be presented. It was glittering because of the rainbow stones. The Fairy Queen used that beautifully adorned cart for herself in the parade, in which all different flowers and decorated items were presented. All fairies were served with nectar, too. Clark and Lila joined the festival, too, with the help of the magnifying glass. The Fairy Queen liked that cart a lot and appreciated them a lot for their help and kindness. Everyone appreciated Rosetta's beautiful cart. The spring festival ended well, and then everyone got back to their daily life. Grandpa looked around, noticing all the kids had been mesmerized by the story. Clark was in deep thought as he was continuously examining Grandpa's beautiful red stone ring. He asked Grandpa, "What about the red crystal stone that Clark had taken from the Rainbow Canyon?" Grandpa smiled, but did not answer. As it was now late at night, all the kids went to their rooms and fell asleep, except for Laura and Clark, who could not sleep the whole night because they suddenly found Grandpa to be so mysterious. Early the next morning, Laura and Clark heard Grandpa laughing and talking to someone. They went near the window and saw something quite odd. Grandpa had a magnifying glass and was crouched near a rose flower in the garden. Now both Laura and Clark knew who the Clark was from the story, and they now realized that dreams can have actual meaning too. But only a mind open to accept the wonders of this world can understand such realities. The end.